For Consultant Hendricks, please begin the recording.
The recording has begun.
Thank you. I'm now calling the Tuesday, December 15th, 2020 special meeting of the Los Altos Hills County Fire District, fiscal year 2021-2022 Commission Budget Subcommittee to order. Time is 7:01 p.m. Please note that in support of physical distancing during the local public health emergency and in accordance with Governor Newsom's executive order that relaxed Brown Act rules during this public health crisis, we are conducting the meeting via video conference. Because we are video conferencing, we will follow a strict protocol for the benefit of the recording. We will indicate when commissioners, staff, and the public will provide comments. If you have called into the meeting and are not using a webcam, please state your name prior to providing your comment for the benefit of the recording. So we're done here. Please practice considerate video conferencing etiquette by muting your line when you're not speaking and limiting distracted behavior on camera. District Clerk Vargas, please conduct the roll call.
Okay, thank you, Roger. So good evening, commissioners. I'm going to conduct a roll call of the fiscal year 2021-2022 Commission Budget Subcommittee. Commissioner Carr.
Here.
Commissioner Spreen.
Here.
And Commissioner Vaughn is not present. So we have 2 of the 3 budget subcommittee commissioners present, which is a quorum. Now, also for the benefit of the recording, I will conduct a staff roll call. General Manager Logan.
Here.
District Legal County Counsel Cheladin.
Present.
Special Project Services Consultant Hendricks.
Present.
And Consultant for Technical Services Beebe.
Present.
Thank you. So staff is accounted for.
Great, thank you. Now on our agenda item, this would be now time for public comment. Given that no public is here, should I still proceed with that legal reading or can we skip?
I think you can just ask and confirm that no one's on the line for the record and then skip it.
Okay, for the record, are there any members of the public who are connected in any way who would like to have comments not on the for items not on the agenda?
As the meeting host, I don't see any. Oh, sorry. We do have someone joining the call, but it's Emergency Services Manager Gluhan. At this time, we do not have any members of the public on the call. Okay, in that case, we will proceed past item 2 to item 3, which is the main reason for us being here. Let's see, we will start with item 3. This is the discussion of the LAHCFD draft budget for the fiscal year of 21-22. We'll start with an introduction. Item A from Jay Logan and Corey.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And thank you, Subcommittee, for joining us and for the staff who's here tonight. Just as an overview to the budget, I want to say this is an opportunity for the district now in its integration with the county and after the management audit to really look at the recommendations and what funding we have and make use of these for the best practices for fire protection and prevention for the district. And I think that budget in front of you will show how we're trying to do that. The budget is the vehicle that drives our strategic plan and also drives our programs and projects. So it's all pulled together. We've got the documents here that will help with that. And I just look forward to the discussion tonight. Everything we're going to talk about will now go on January 19th to a full commission meeting. This is just a checkpoint for staff and the subcommittee to make sure we're on the same path moving forward. And if any revisions need to be made for the budget, this is an opportunity to do so in a smaller venue and then present it to the full commission on January 19th. Thank you for these opportunity to make these remarks.
Thank you, Jay. I'll take over. And so Sarah, it's possible you could put the slides up. And the first slide will be the introduction slide for item 3A. So next page, if you could, please. Technical difficulties.
Yeah, sorry, I seem to be frozen. But there we go. Okay.
Perfect. Okay, wonderful. So this is just, a quick introduction to the Los Altos Hills County Fire District, who we are. And I think you're probably all familiar with our mission, which is to protect the lives, property, and environment within the community it serves from fires, disasters, and medical emergencies, or other incidents through education, prevention, and emergency response services for the town of Los Altos Hills and the adjacent county areas. Now, the mission is accomplished we're built on the 3 pillars, if you will, of the district. And that is our Community Wildlife Protection Program, the CWPP Annex 4, and Fire Science, which identifies the protection, prevention, and educational strategies. Then our 2020-2022 Successor Strategic Plan, that sort of acts as a framework for developing initiatives and programs to supplement, enhance, and strengthen fire protection, prevention services, and public education. And of course, what we're discussing tonight is the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. Of course, it provides a forecast of revenues and expenditures, but it also helps plan how we're going to allocate the resources needed to achieve our strategic plan goals. And then built on these 3 pillars is our forward-looking community resiliency chart. If you could go to the next page, Sarah. And I think you're all familiar with this chart. This is sort of what we as a commission have or what the commission
is showing something.
Oops, sorry, Jan's talking. The commission has committed to using this as sort of the roadmap and guide for our programs, our operations, and our management that we use to achieve our mission. And of course, this, like I said, it's built upon the CWPP, built upon Fire Science, built upon the Successor Strategic Plan. And I won't dally on it too long, but it shows all of our projects and programs, our integrated hazardous fuel reduction. And then of course, who will be running all of these duties for us is our what we will be talking about later, our anticipated 4.5 full-time employees. And then of course our staff, county council, and the consultants, and possible future consultants as well, which we will discuss later. So that is the introduction. So we can then move on to item 3B, which is a review and discussion of a fiscal year 2021-22 budget draft 2. Now this is providing revisions to the draft 1, which was presented at the November 17th, 2020 Board of Commissioners regular meeting. So this top part, just giving you a timeline, reminder, draft 1 was prepared by Jay and I, presented last month. Now this is draft 2, again, prepared by Jay and I. We will be discussing this at tonight's meeting. And then based upon the input that we received tonight, there will be a draft 3, which will then be presented to the full commission at the January 19th, 2021 meeting. And so really no action is being taken tonight. This is more just a discussion. And again, it's just, we're working on a draft. This is not at all final. So no drastic decisions are being made tonight. It's just like I said, discussion and working out a plan. So I just also put some of the little highlights of our financial budget is, we've had a strong accumulation of funds over the last few years. The past 4 years, we've had net income every year. I anticipate again for the current fiscal year, we will have net income. And then the budget draft 2, which is presented right now, it's showing also some net income that might change based on input tonight. So we've also.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you for 1 second? Commissioner Carr dropped off the call, but I see that somebody just called in. Commissioner Carr, is that you? Last 4 digits of your phone number, 3509.
No, it's Alan Epstein.
Okay, I'm going to change your name, but as an FYI, then we don't have quorum right now as Commissioner Carr has dropped off the line. I don't know if that's an issue.
Yeah, let's wait for a minute because I'm sure that was accidental. So let's let her rejoin since we have, I think we're in good shape time-wise.
Okay. And how long was I babbling on that she had dropped off the call? How much did she miss?
I think right when we heard her voice, I tried muting her and then she went away. So
Okay.
hopefully I didn't boot her
Uh-oh.
by hitting that. Usually that doesn't happen. So does anyone have her number? Maybe want to give her a call or text her to make sure she's able to get back.
Yes, just a minute. And I'll do that. Am I on speaker here? Yeah, let me just text her.
This is Alan Epstein. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
The Zoom password didn't work.
Oh, what did it do? It did for me. And I came through the standard Zoom interface and typed the numbers in myself.
I cut and pasted them in.
I cut and pasted, it didn't work, and then I typed them in and it didn't work.
Okay.
I know we've had some people that have had issues like that in the past. Corey, I believe you had some issues and but Commissioner Carr was on the line earlier, so we know that the password worked for her.
Right.
So we'll see if she's able to hop back on.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, we can recess, right?
Yeah, let's just give it a minute here because since it's nice to not proceed without, or rather not proceed without a quorum if we can help it.
The password that I used was 928-300 and it worked. Just
That's
with
the password that appears on the website. That's the password I tried pasting as well as typing in.
Huh. Okay.
I've got Janice on the phone. She's having a computer problem. Can she just participate by phone?
Certainly it's fine from my standpoint, as long as she feels completely connected.
Yeah, the dial-in information is on the agenda.
It's on the bottom of the Zoom or after the password. If she wants, I can give you the number if she can't find it. I've got it up.
Jay, you're muted, so I'm not sure what you're saying.
Thank you, Roger. I didn't realize I was muted. I've got her here on the phone. Can she participate just on the phone this way?
Can she call in on either the 800 or the 602 number?
Let me give it.
Yes, she can participate by phone. That's fine.
Okay. Denise, can you give it to me? I don't have the agenda up on my screen. I've got too much.
Yeah, the toll free is 888
Okay.
204
Okay.
5987.
Got it. Okay. Janice, can you call this number? I can give it to you.
Okay.
888
Yes.
204 5987.
She'll need the password too.
And it's 928-300.
Janice, the password is 928300.
Okay.
And she needs the meeting number too?
Say again?
Does she need the meeting number as well?
Oh, no.
The conference code is 473402.
Okay.
Yeah, right here. 473
402.
02
Mhm.
402.
Yes.
Yes, the other way. Working on it.
Good enough.
Yeah, it's certainly better having her directly phoned in rather than indirectly through Jay speaker.
Yes.
Alan, are you using a phone or using a computer?
I'm using my phone.
Ah,
I could not get in by using my computer.
I see.
The beauty of technology.
Mhm.
We had some excitement in Santa Cruz. We had a power failure earlier, so I wasn't
Yeah.
clear that I wasn't clear I was going to be able to Wi-Fi, and the cellular network was also down.
Oh,
Yeah, I was same thing because I'm an Aptos, and it was like it came on. I was like, yay!
Well, what's funny is PG&E first estimated 8:45 p.m. with like
Yeah.
40,000 customers, and then they changed it.
oh man.
Yeah. I know I was in the same predicament. I was like, I can go drive somewhere and do it on my phone, is what I was thinking. Or my iPad.
Oh, I'm having trouble here. They're not, I'm putting in the password and they're not recognizing it.
Okay.
Try the conference code, maybe.
Yeah, you need to be adding the access code, which is 473402 pound.
Yeah, we tried that.
And it still isn't working?
Hasn't worked yet. Just giving
Hi.
it.
Okay, hold on.
Maybe someone could text Commissioner Carr the full instructions, maybe, or
Here she is, I think.
That's me. I just thought I'd try it. And
I just tried it too. It worked for me.
Okay.
That worked for me. I
Janice,
got
can I tell you the
too.
number to call, please?
So we have 2 phone-ins now. In addition to Alan.
Yes. Can I ask whose phone number ends in 9638?
They're muted still.
Okay. This is Janice Carr's phone number.
Yay!
Oh, perfect.
Great, we can hear you. I'm going to change your name so your phone number is not on here.
Yes. So it should be, she should be operational at this point. I'm going to try to see if I can get her back onto the computer.
Sounds good. Great. Thank you.
Thanks,
yeah.
Larry.
Sure. So you can talk to me, can't see anything here.
What happened?
Just talk.
Oh, then
So Janice, are you with us?
I am, yes.
Okay, so just to resync everybody, since we also have a member of the public with us as well, we are in item 3A, continuing with the introduction by Corey on the overview.
Okay.
Great, thank you. So I guess I'll go back to the first bullet point just as a refresher. Draft 1 was presented to the Board of Commissioners at last month's meeting in November. Draft 2 is what we are discussing tonight. And then draft 3 will be created after input from tonight's discussion, and then draft 3 will be presented to the commission at the January meeting next month. So I just wanted then to go on to the highlights. Again, we've accumulated a strong fund balance. We've had positive net change in positive change in net position over the past 4 years. Expect to also have it this current fiscal year, and possibly anticipating it in the upcoming fiscal year 22. We're expanding our projects and programs as always, collaborating with regional agencies to strengthen our integrated hazardous fuel reduction and our community resiliency. And we'd like to try and increase personnel and consulting resources so that we can improve our operation efficiency. We can implementate oversight for projects and programs. And then of course we can achieve the county management audit, the County Local Agency Formation Commission, LAHCFO, and County Regional Fire Protection Plan study findings. And so I think that concludes really 3A introduction, and we can go into 3B. So I'll move it to you, Roger.
Okay, great, thank you. So moving to item 3B, which is really the meat of tonight's meeting. This is the review and discussion of budget draft 2, as just described by Corey. In terms of public comment, we'll take public comment in advance of the item. My understanding is that's potentially preferred way to do it in the county. So we will offer members of the public a chance to speak on item 3B, and that way we can also utilize those comments in our discussion as a committee. Would any members of the public, amongst our 1 member of the public present, like to speak on item 3B, the general review and discussion of this draft?
This is Alan Epstein. I'm sorry, I don't have the agenda ahead of me. Is this the discussion about the draft budget that was attached to the?
Yeah, this is the meat of the meeting, and so we'll give 3 minutes to any public member to discuss thoughts. Anything you'd like to say about the draft itself, and which means the numbers and the substance of the budget. Now would be your opportunity if you'd like to take that.
Thank you very much. I did have an opportunity to review the numbers, and I did send to General Manager Logan some comments, which I hope she will share with the rest of the board and staff. Specifically, some comments are first that there's no supporting documentation to go with the list of numbers. Almost 10 years ago, when I first started to attend these meetings, I complained vigorously about the fact that the budget just appeared to be a list of numbers without any supporting documentation. And so it's very difficult for the public, and I believe for commissioners, to understand where the numbers arrive from and what is the background and support for them. So I would recommend strongly that you put together some type of document that provides the background for the numbers. Secondly, the district is going to end up with a rather tremendous amount of cash, and I think the district should work more aggressively to try to find beneficial programs to utilize that cash, in particular with wildland fire protection and cooperation with its neighbors. Also, there's questions about office space. There's questions about potential day type of fire station. I think those things should be given serious consideration. Lastly, with regards to the commitments or reserves are concerned, I don't believe they're supported by any analysis, and I would challenge the commissioners to look carefully at those reserves to determine whether they are appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Some very good points there, which I will refer back to during our discussion. Okay, really, this is the meat of the meeting. I know it's gonna be harder for you, Janice, from a phone link only. I really see this as 3 things here. Purpose of this. One is to receive public comments, which you've just heard from Alan. Second is to really get a sense of what's an initial reaction from from several commissioners from what they read from this. I'll give you mine in just a second as a preview and potentially any modifications that might want to come from what a commissioner sees when we go through this. And third is a chance for Janice and myself and our other commissioner member, Melvin, to dive into specifics and make any specific modifications we might see. So with that, I'll start with, here's what I saw when I went through this. I went through it sort of, line by line, looking at numbers. What does this budget tell me? Because that's going to be we want to think what is the rest of the commission going to see when they see this? And it definitely shows a evolution, a stepped evolution, if you will, and a transformation of the district that very much responds to the events of the past couple years with audits and discussion of the very mission of the district. Specifically, I see a very large financial commitment towards regional solutions and regional issues, I think are spelled out here, both in terms of working with the county fire district, the county fire in a closer and a more collaborative way, both in terms of equipment and services, but also working with the towns around us. That's indicated here as well. And I'm personally pleased to see us making steps right away to link ourselves closer to our neighbors, because I think one of the things that's come out of the discussions is the recognition that we don't exist in a vacuum. We're linked arm in arm with our neighbors, and we want to be doing programs that really show that we are dealing with our boundaries and our overlaps with our neighbors, the neighbors who are providing mutual aid to us as we provide aid to them. Specifically, and finally, in addition to that, we also see the ramp up of support, personnel support required by us as a district to support these programs. So I think all of these things move hand in hand, and we can discuss some of these more specifically, but I think those are the bullet points that I saw before I saw anything from Corey in terms of trying to guide me through this. The numbers themselves spoke that to me. Janice, before we start going through this kind of section by section, do you have any overall comments you'd like to make?
Well, I don't know if you call them overall, but as I read through it, I just noted, I guess, 4 things that I had a question about that's probably obvious to the rest of you. So do you want that, or what would you like?
Yeah, well, since you're on the phone, and I know that sort of data is a little more difficult when you're on the phone, why don't we do that? Let's go through your 4 items so we can really hit them specifically, and then we can go through things sort of topically as well. So you proceed.
Yeah, okay. Just a minute here. Under operating expenditures. Just a second, I gotta get closer to the microphone. I can. Under operating expenditures, there's 50, the last thing before the total number there was for fiscal year 22, $50,000. Do you see where I'm looking?
Yes.
And then I was wondering why there's such a difference between that and fiscal year 21, which was only 2,500. Is there a logical?
Corey, my take on that before we ask Corey is that you'll notice it's actually less than the contingency we budgeted for last year, but in general, year upon year, those miscellaneous things have all stayed pretty low. So the question is, do we want to, looks like Corey has taken a step down from where we were, but Corey, do you feel that this is the right order of magnitude as a contingency item?
I mean, it's really, I think, up to the commission, the contingency for all the little groupings, what's sort of, it's highlighted in blue under every single grouping of the budget structure. I mean, it really is for the unforeseeable emergency events that just we can't foresee. And it's because, sort of once we're locked into a budget, it is very difficult. Well, you really can't add to the budget once it's been approved by the county. So I think the commission has sort of shown a preference for maybe over budget, the padding, if you will, a little bit for those emergencies. I mean, since the whole structure, what we do is emergencies. So it's really
Agreed.
hard. Yeah. So it's I think up to, 50 is probably high. Because as you can see in the past multiple years, it's, 2000 to, 482 in 1 year. So again, I would say it's really up to you whether you want to be, conservative or whether you want to go more, no, let's try and be more accurate. Yeah.
Right. Does that answer your question, Janice?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks. You want another one?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's in the next group, salaries and payroll taxes. Fiscal year 22, it says 180,000, whereas projected for 2021 is only 30,000, and I was wondering why such a large difference there.
I'll throw in an answer, then expect people to correct me where I'm wrong, which is that's a move to a full-time operations manager, which we don't have right now. I think that was geared for a part-time position for 2021, and we didn't have anyone filling it for most of the year either. So we only spent a small amount in that specific role. So the goal for 21-22 is to actually have someone full-time in that position. And now, Jay, I may turn to you to say, do you want to give a little more specific detail about what that position will encompass in the coming year?
Sure. So the operations manager would be working on the operations of the district. And the chief and I, Chief Bowden and I, are planning for the future starting in July of 21 through the following June of 22. So it's still a good number of months off before this budget would go into operation. In the meantime, there'll be a battalion chief hired. There'll be a staff placed under the battalion chief. And this operational position may be a part of that contingency. So there's funding there if it goes that direction. Or it may be a position that's actually hired by the fire district if we find a person who can do that, and work with the hydrant program, the fuel reduction program, the numbers of programs that you see on the community resiliency chart. So right now we're still understaffed. We've not replaced the fire consultant that we had in the past. It's a combination of Denise and I trying to do those tasks, and we just really need somebody to focus on that. The contracts, the contractors, the hydrants, the various operational aspects of running the district in coordination with Central Fire and the regional programs that we have that we are planning, getting into Station 8 and all. So that's kind of an overview of that position. Very critical position. It takes the right person. So we're waiting until we find the right applicant who comes along who can fill that. Thank you.
Does that address your question? Great, Janice. Proceed if you like, if you have two more items.
Yeah, that's fine. Do you want to go on to the next one?
Yes, please.
Okay. In the next group under professional and specialized services, contingency, the last item, and that is $100,000. Why?
Corey, I'm going to pass that one to you.
Well, as you are all very aware, we have now gone, we've changed our legal counsel. And I really only have 2 months worth of legal counsel billings right now, which don't give me a very accurate record of what the cost is going to be compared to what the past legal counsel so on the line item of legal counsel, I budgeted 150. This contingency will cover if they go over. It'll cover if our outside professional services go over, and those outside professional services, that would be like Abundance of Corn Dev, Jackson Ricketts, MRG, any records retention consultants we get. So the contingency again is to pad those specialized services that maybe we don't quite know what the cost will be yet because they're new. So I don't have historical data to really go against to get an accurate budget.
Okay.
That's
And we'd certainly be happy if we do zero spending on that, but that's really an insurance commitment. It's sort of an insurance allocation for us in that area.
Thank you. Yeah.
A question, does on that topic of legal fees, does county's legal fees, does that come through the budget in any particular account, or?
So that's the outside legal fees.
It is considered outside legal fees. There's not a separate one for, okay.
Because we do have a contract with them, so they are technically outside legal fees.
Excellent.
Yep.
So it makes sense to have a larger sort of ambiguity, since we don't know how that system's going to work, how much of their hours we're going to use, what other calls we'll have on them. So, okay, thank you.
Yeah, so far they're trending lower, but again, I'm only a couple months in, and we might end up bombarding Chris with a whole bunch of stuff, and that number might go up. So we'll see.
I might make a comment too about the contingencies, and Corey, you can correct me if I'm misstating anything here. But as you look at the various programs, the program blocks, and then the line items underneath them, what we understand from the county is we can alter the line items, but we can't go over the program total. That's what the contingency is for. It's to provide funds if we need a particular program or a particular service that's not contemplated at this time. And again, we're working from July of 21 through June of 22. It's still hard to vision and project what those expenses and those services are going to be. So each of the contingencies is to give us that ability to add programs where they're not specifically enumerated in the line items. So Corey, is that a pretty good representation of what the contingency is?
Yeah. So to clarify, so for example, looking at professional and specialized services, what I am going to give to the county is they will see account number 5255100, professional and specialized services, total budget 360,600. They don't have those little sub accounts that we do. They don't have the 5255101 annual audit, 5255102 accounting. So that's more internal Los Altos Hills County Fire District accounting. What I present to the counties, I say we're going to spend 360,600 for professional and specialized services. So the contingency, as Jay said, it allows us kind of we can move it into legal fees if we need to, or move it into outside professional services if needed. Just keeping that bottom line for total professional and specialized services at 366, or not exceeding, I'm sorry, that 360,600.
And the reason I asked the previous question, which was actually a dumb question in terms of how county legal fees are included here, I'm really surprised that for our reprojected 2021 expenses are so low compared to what we budgeted, even low compared to previous years, given how much legal fees I thought we would have had during all the audit work. Or was it because things were so quiet most of the year? Is that why?
I think it's a combination of the bulk of the audit concluding, and also COVID-19. Yeah, has been.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Great. Janice, as long as we're on a roll, we'll let you continue with your next question. I think you have one more.
Okay, I'm trying to get enough light here so that I can see the paper. It's near the bottom under contract services. Foothills Park, Palo Alto Fire Station number 8. What's that all about?
It's a key item to ask about. Jay, do you want to take? There's actually there's a range of items in there, Janice, which kind of go together. That both
Yeah.
Would you like to address those, Jay?
Surely. So what Station 8 is it's a fire station that's outside of the district of Los Altos, but it is very near our boundaries in Palo Alto. And in the past number of years, that station was populated with fire crews, and there was a cost sharing between the city of Palo Alto and the county fire district. That program was abandoned a number of years ago, and the fire station has basically sat unused most of the time. And so there is an interest now for this coming fire season to restaff that station and to enter back into a cost-sharing program with Palo Alto. And those discussions are underway. I'm leaning on Chief Bowden to be able to recommend the metrics and the formulas for when to staff and how to staff and what equipment to place there. But what it would do, it would give us a lot of protection on our boundary adjoining Palo Alto, and it would also benefit Palo Alto. One of the studies we recently did is when it comes to mutual aid, the fire district receives most of its mutual aid, interestingly, not from Central Fire, but from the city of Palo Alto. So in so being the receptor of that mutual aid, it would be a very good idea for the district to also be a benefactor or to do a regional benefit back to Palo Alto. And I think this cost sharing and this idea of not only giving us increased fire protection, but also being a good citizen regional fire district with our partner agencies just helps with our rapport and our ability to depend on each other during fire events. And I guess I can use the old adage, which is fire knows no boundaries. And again, this is an area where we can really benefit, but also benefit others in that protection up on that northern side of the district. So that's a long answer to what Station 8 is all about, but it's part of the component of strengthening our northern and boundaries between Palo Alto, a lot of open space up there, and the district. Denise is working on that program right now with shaded fuel breaks along Page Mill Road. So it's just not a one ticket solves the problem. It's a many factor approach, and the Station 8 is one of those factors. So thank you. Those are my comments.
Okay. Is the station within the park or close to it?
Yes, Denise, you've been to that station. Do you want to comment on the location of the station in the park?
I have, yeah, Janet, it's past the pond when you go into the Palo Alto Foothill Park. It's past the pond area, kind of up on a hill, on a knoll. So it has a pretty good vantage point also. If you drive in, it's past the little information kiosk building that they have there. You just continue up into a little hill. It has signage. If you go into the park, it has signage of where it is. And it's basically a giant garage with a living room and some sleeping areas. So it's not a very large station. It's just kind of a little outpost type station. Someone could be in there 24 hours, but it's not as big as El Monte Station if you just wanted to compare it in size.
Okay. I was wondering, there's been a lot of discussion recently about people not being able to get into Foothills Park unless they're a Palo Alto resident. I'm just wondering.
That wouldn't change. This is just about fire protection. That won't change
Okay.
unless they want to renegotiate that. We have a lot of open space already in Los Altos Hills, but this is something we have done through a contract with County Fire in the past. It would just be a reinstatement, kind of a past practice with us initiating that. As General Manager Logan said, we receive mostly in highway response mutual aid, a lot of Palo Alto resources, and we don't give them a lot as far as resources back in response because it's the freeway, the nature of the freeway. It's quicker for them to get on to cover all of the southbound of 280 or anything up Page Mill Road. Those are both quicker responses. And then the enhancement of this station is more specifically for wildland. And then some of the other vegetation management projects and things that we want to have the ability to have some flex that we don't have now, because obviously Foothill Station, or I'm sorry, our El Monte Station at Foothill College is pretty much maxed out on size. We will be losing some space there, in general that we had to, an office space and stuff. So that station doesn't have any room to do any extra staffing if we want to bring on any kind of extra staffing. Currently, they only run the patrols from 10 until 6 daily. So this would give us an opportunity to run patrols to whatever schedule we want, whether we want to set up a 24-hour, if we want it just to be a daytime use. That's something that we can negotiate with Palo Alto, with County Fire and ourselves. So it's just basically bringing this station out of the blackout back to functional. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
If you actually touched on part of my question was going to be who would be putting equipment in there? Would it be Palo Alto equipment or would it be our sort of county equipment?
I think that would be at the discussion point of the fire chief in Palo Alto and the fire chief at Central. They would figure out, probably the equipment would rotate. I don't think it would be stationary equipment, but they would work that into their mutual aid vehicle schedules. And Denise, you probably know more about that than I'm talking out of school here as a civilian, but how those equipment pieces would rotate through, what maybe you've seen in the past.
So yeah, one of the things that we'll be up against most likely is because they haven't staffed that station. They haven't been keeping equipment dedicated for that station. So Palo Alto may be short on equipment at this point. So that is a negotiating term. We do have the patrol, the type 3, that is out of the El Monte Station too. So maybe a collaboration again, or maybe we have an excess reserve vehicle that from County Fire that may be a staffing model. But again, that's all kind of something that's really got to be worked out between Chief of County Fire and Chief of Palo Alto kind of with us. I think we're trying to kind of be the mediators to kind of help that because of the needs of that area being so remote, that just to have that ability in especially the higher fire dangers, red flag days, things like that, where we can actually have quick staffing and quick response from there. They can also supplement some of those freeway responses and things that we're already asking for Palo Alto Mutual Aid. But really, it's going to have to be chiefs looking at their budgets and their equipment. I would say Palo Alto probably has not budgeted equipment since they haven't activated that station, would be my guess.
I would agree with that. Palo Alto has reduced its fire service. They've browned out stations. And so that's a concern, I think, that should be for the fire district in knowing that we receive a lot of mutual aid from Palo Alto. Palo Alto is going through a budget decrease to their fire operation, and then they're browning out stations. That's only going to put us more into a difficult or a harm's way. So by bolstering our resources to the north section of the district and having Station 8, you see how it starts to equalize then what they're doing in pulling back their fire patrols. So it's a good response to what they're doing in a positive and a partnership kind of way. And the equipment would be part of that.
You're advocating it in terms of the mutual aid sort of balance. I have to say that this particular budget item is one of the most exciting ones to me. Just to give you one data point of one commissioner, this is the one I'm most excited about. And I'm my concern is it too low? Because I think it's the opportunity to have something there on that border of Los Altos Hills addresses a lot of things. Not only the mutual aid fairness with Palo Alto, but to have anything there that speeds up reaction time to that portion of Los Altos Hills is something we've talked about for a long time, not just in high fire times, but we've always talked about the fact that response times require from El Monte Station to that part of town require a long way around. So I recognize we're kind of a mediator, not really sort of, it's up to the chiefs to kind of figure that out, but I would love to see that blossom into even more opportunity for us to station people or equipment there to really help shore up that border. That's just giving you one reaction. And my concern would be that do we have enough, and this kind of touches on a little bit of what Alan Epstein mentioned in terms of office space and fire stations, if this really represents reopening a fire station that can be beneficial to us, do we have sufficient funds listed in this budget to handle all angles of this?
Well, I think what you brought up is the beauty of contingency funding. And you see, that's why in each of these program areas, we have a number of dollars set aside for contingencies, because what we're doing is we're designing programs into the future, significantly into the future. And in the designing programs, we're trying to budget accordingly, but that's where the contingencies are helpful, because let's say we under budget there, we can reach down into the contingency pocket and pull that forward into the Station 8. Or perhaps it's another area. Maybe it's the fuel crews that we need more funding for. And that's why each of these programs has a contingency factor in it, just for those unknowns that you're referencing now.
You can just imagine that between staffing and capital, that reopening that station, and I recognize there's negotiation to happen here too, to make sure it really is fair to both our residents and taxpayers and Palo Alto residents and taxpayers. I'm excited about this particular item, and we'll make sure that we have no handcuffs for making something really interesting happen there. I mean, that'd be a huge step for residents in terms of really measuring an enhancement in fire safety to have that station active. So I'm excited by that.
Yeah. And one thing I just want to mention is the fire station is not in the jurisdiction of Los Altos Hills.
Right.
You mentioned about office space. So for the fire district office space, it needs to reside within the jurisdiction of Los Altos Hills County Fire District.
Right.
We could not go outside of the fire district to have that office space. So.
And actually, I wasn't thinking of the foothills space as office space. We'll get into that in a second as well. But just any opportunity to have staffing and equipment there that is really fair for us to use for that area of Palo Alto and Los Altos Hills, to me, is a huge win. So I'm strongly in favor.
Commissioner Spreen, if you kind of look at the extra fire season staff numbers, that's that patrol that runs from 10 to 6
right.
In the fire season. So that kind of gives you, if you were doing either a second apparatus like that or enhancing that to some longer hours or more staffing. So just it's kind of a dollar reference point.
Okay.
That's just just to kind of have you have a comparison of what we're looking at.
I appreciate
and
that.
Then we do, and also there is maybe the possibility we always suffer on community meeting space. So that may be something we can negotiate also, because we always have that if we ever go back to that normalized community meeting. That may be an option too at some point. Again, it's not a large station, but it does have the apparatus bay that could do some community or some CERT things, or maybe something like that we could also benefit from in using that rental component.
Great. Yeah. So as long as we're jumping around at this point, which I think is a fair discussion, and Janice, I appreciate you brought some great comments here. As long as we're down in this set of numbers, I'd like to address the two items that stick out of interest are the pumper tanker and apparatus enhancements. And my understanding is that really is sort of applied to rural style fire protection and new equipment that is geared towards that. Is that led by the fire chief in terms of specifying what equipment they're looking to add?
Yes, I've consulted with Chief Bowden quite a bit, and the pumper tanker, or better defined as the water tender,
Yeah.
is how the chief would describe a fire hydrant on wheels. And so it's really a great visual, because if you think of the ruralness of the WUI of Los Altos Hills, you'll have fire hydrants that are they're pretty much, in a line, and then you'll get a large piece of property where there's not a fire hydrant around it. And that's always been of concern as we've looked at our water systems and how that surpluses the fire hydrants and how it's used for fire suppression. So the water tender is a great device that can be used as that mobile water hydrant. And an example the chief gave me where he could have used a water tanker and didn't have it, a water tender didn't have it, was the burn fire a couple of years ago. And so what the water tender would do is it would be able to maneuver through wildlands or off-road. And the sides of the water, it's just a big water tank, has nozzles and sprays that the driver can access. And so then it could go across the field or go through the wooded area and spray that whole area with water. That could be 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 gallons. And so that would be a tremendous benefit. The other thing the water tender can do, and I watched a YouTube video because as a civilian, I thought I better know a little bit of what I'm talking about. But the YouTube video was just great. It showed this tank, 3,000 gallons. I'm sure Denise is kind of laughing now when I'm trying to describe this. But this tank full of water, and this pop-up container comes out, which is a water supply holder. And within seconds, it is filled now with the water from the tank. Now the water is all contained for drafting from fire engines or from other kind of operations. And the water tender scurries on back, fills itself with more water and comes back. So those are the various kind of deployments that I think are very exciting when you talk about how we can have various techniques in going in and fighting wildland fires. And so that's kind of my civilian side story of what a water tender would bring to the district. And the chief is much more elaborate when he talks about it.
I appreciate it. When I looked at this section of the budget, what that spoke to me was this is our taking real steps towards closer collaboration with fire and really bringing the technology to bear. And I think that's what the residents want. They want us spending our monies and their tax monies on this kind of equipment that makes a specific difference in fighting fire. So I really appreciated, and I think there'll be a lot of informational interest in what these devices are and how they really do apply. So
yeah. And so then what happens is now you've got an extra engine. Okay, where are we going to store it? Where are we going to place it? How's it going to be housed? How's it going to be maintained? So those are all the operational, I'll go back to the operational manager now. Those are all the operational details that have to be worked out when the commissioners and the general manager have these grand ideas, but no idea how to operationalize them. So that's where the synergy and the planning with Central Fire and with our regional partners is so very important.
Absolutely. And two other things I want to call out that sort of spoke to me was, one was all the under projects and programs. Really, I'm just saying this to say that the budget shows me a change in our focus to really these very proactive defensible space focus, both in the education of it and the execution of it for fire breaks, shaded fuel breaks, and home breaks, and all these items under projects and programs are really going to be ramping up. And I think residents are going to really see those effects. And what I also saw was there's a parallel of that to our staffing, because those things all take a lot of administrative work. And so when I look down in the budget and I see that, we'd like over the next budget year, we'd like to move to essentially 3 full-time and 3 part-time employees to manage this exiting 2022, 6 people, 3 full-time, 3 part-time. And I think when people look at those numbers and say, why, explain the staffing numbers, I look at all the programs going on that really require pretty intensive administrative connection between residents, external partners, and us as a district. So I saw all those projects and programs as being very proactive, really proactive, defensible actions that I really liked seeing.
Well, thank you for that insight. I want to point out too that a lot of those line items under projects and programs is IHFR, that's integrated hazardous fuel reduction. So what you're getting is a quilt here of all the various components of what reduces fire risk through hazardous fuel. And so it's integrated together rather than just doing a program here, a program there, and they don't really interrelate. This is all interrelated. And then that's the picture graph of that is the chart that Corey pulled up and that Sarah could pull up, which shows the really what forward-looking community resiliency, what it looks like in a picture graph. And if you look at that, here we go. You'll see on the right-hand side is our integrated hazardous fuel reduction programs. And all of those programs that are funded here in the budget drive this section of the pictograph. Then if you go to the other side, you'll see the protection and prevention programs. And the budget is what drives these programs over here. So as Chief Bowden would say, when his crews are called out for suppression, it's because prevention and protection failed. Mm-hmm. And so what we have to do as a district, and this is the wonderful opportunity the district has, is put a robust set of prevention and protection programs together. And then hopefully we don't have to move into his job, which is suppression, because that can happen. We saw it happen, I think a month ago, a car was driving a little erratically, missed a turn, went over the cliff, and suddenly you've got a brush fire. From a car that explodes on impact. Those are the kinds of things you can't prevent and protect against. You just have to hope you have some good luck. And we did, because that whole area had been shaded fuel braked and there wasn't a lot of brush then that caught on fire with as much ignition. And when the fire crews got out there, they could put it out. So, and then below on this forward-looking community resiliency, to your point, Roger, are all of the functions that have to occur to be able to drive these programs for the district. And that's where your staffing comes in. Mm-hmm. So if someone were to say to me, well, gee, Jay, did you do any comparative with other districts? I don't find too many districts like Los Altos Hills, but I can say, well, let me show you the programs and the functions, and then you tell me what the human resources are going to be to make this vehicle work. And I think this is a pretty good defensible picture graph of what we're doing here with our programs and how we're expending budgets.
Thank you. And I certainly expect that we're going to learn a lot this year in terms of how these, the different actual line items are going to balance out, because I'm sure that as different projects come up, some are going to be bigger than others. And I really like seeing the focus, particularly on the open space fuel break, since open space has been a issue for me for 17 years now. I'm excited to see what can actually be done to really integrate fire protection and the level of open space. It's kind of it is our strength and our weakness that we have all this open space, and to really be balancing that in a safe way and a beautiful way is something I'm really excited about.
Well, I want to throw one other comment that I'd ask Denise to comment on. And Denise, could you just comment on the box that was drawn in the CZU fire and how that was a wake-up call for us and what we're trying to do now with our western and northern boundaries, and how important that is from a budget and programs perspective?
Absolutely. Thanks, Jay. Yeah, so as we've kind of touched on, when CZU from the August Lightning Complex, they drew their budget or their box of objectives for control and containment, or control object or containment objective. They used Highway 1 in the west. They used Highway 84 in the north. They used Highway 17 in the south because of the recently increased shaded fuel braking. But then they used Highway 280 in the east. So that takes all the western side of Los Altos Hills inside that box, where they're allowing to say, we're going to burn to that place if all goes bad. And there were some times when we got close to that. So one of seeing that happen, one of our biggest concerns now is what do we need to do to have a better fuel break between the Los Altos residents and 280. So we're looking at Highway 35, a shaded fuel break on there. We're looking at something that's never been done, cutting an actual fuel break, possibly on public lands or watershed areas. Again, that's something big and huge and is going to take a lot of interfacing and collaboration, but it's not an acceptable objective. Containment objective is Highway 280 in the east. We need it to be something. Unfortunately, most of that is not in our county, so it's going to be very hard to determine what that's going to be. Our GIS that we're starting to initiate, that's going to be very helpful, because just determining boundaries and adding in information as we do that. And then we're going to start attending meetings with Highway 35 does have some plans to do some improvements as shaded fuel breaking through Fire Safe Council, through San Mateo Fire Safe Council and Santa Clara County Fire Safe Council. And then kind of a little bit alongside that, getting the conversation started with Caltrans for the 280 itself, and vegetation management along the southbound from Page Mill down to Magdalena or maybe Foothill. Having that plan, it may not be as easy to get that going. They can only use certain freeway contractors, but about 4 or 5 contractors can do that work. But we definitely need to get on their radar and be the squeaky wheel so that some plans help, or where can we also help them increase the distance that they might do treatment to. Maybe we can go deeper than however many feet they typically do. So those are kind of the circling a box on this western side of 280. Which is our bigger, obviously, risk than the most of the residences on the far east side of Los Altos Hills. Does that kind of hit what you're looking for, Jay?
Yes, very much so. And what we're doing here is we're giving a big picture rather than just a line by line item of going through the budget.
Right. Again, I really see this budget as, I think it does reflect the directional change being taken, very aggressive operations and programs being put in place. I noticed that sort of my final comments are that it essentially balances out in terms of order of magnitude down to, projected budget of, net change of 130,000. But in terms of something Alan Epstein mentioned, capital for both office space or fire station significant improvements. I don't see anything in here that really addresses that. Is that something that we just don't think we can do this year? Is it something that, how much can we, and I know it's obviously I'm just gonna take a lot of planning to decide what's even needed, so we can't sort of jump into a real plan, but I didn't see anything that stood out as where, we're gonna end up with, we hope, 6 people working. Where do we put them? And is there budget here to try and help answer that question?
Not to be funny, but we can be very COVID friendly and put a big tent on our parcel and spread us out 20 feet apart in open air so that we can actually work together.
Yeah.
But no, getting around COVID, I'm just being humorous. I apologize.
Certainly. And, I'm just thinking that when it makes a huge difference. It's great people can work out of their homes, but there's also something to be had for when you need to get together, having a place. And it concerns me that you don't have a place. Again, this it may just be, it's going to take a year of us planning what to do and not actually spending this year. I'm just trying to understand, is everyone's mindset in the same space on that?
Well, I think what I'm waiting for is we haven't gotten the estimates of the architectural plan yet for El Monte. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the factors we need to weigh in. That'll hopefully come in January. And then secondly, we do know that we can retreat back to El Monte once COVID is, with COVID going on, we're going to be pretty much, working in the same patterns we are now. And we're not bringing in particularly new employees until we get the operations manager, who may work out of county fire. I'm not real sure, or the fire station, but we could use the training room. And we've made some requests to Foothill College. We had space lined up there. They're not opened. I've reached out to the town. They don't have space. And with them going through their remodel, they're going to have less space than they have now. So it is a daunting situation. And I think we can budget it, certainly. But I don't have a plan in mind yet. So it'd be just budgeting then, and of course, that's what the contingencies are for, again. So we can certainly put a line item in and budget for that. But if somebody said, well, what's your plan? It's kind of stutter step right now.
Which, in terms of the architectural work being done now, which line item goes towards implementing that?
Well, I think that would
Can I
come out of
interrupt?
this budget.
Please.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So if we're talking about that we're going to be doing some sort of building improvements to or a new building, a pod, I don't know, something that we purchased, that would be an asset. So that would be part of our balance sheet, the capital asset accumulation. And it could even be something that, when we look at the balance sheet, we might want to commit funds to something like that. Committed funds being that we're setting aside part of our fund balance to show the intention that, yes, in the future, maybe not this year, but not the coming fiscal year 22, but in fiscal year 23, we might want to look into administrative buildings. Now, if you're talking about just renting a space where we don't retain ownership of an asset, then that's something that we could, I could either do a new line item for rentals, or we could put it under the miscellaneous operations contingency amount. So it's a question of what route do you want to go? If we're looking to purchase, then that's part of the balance sheet as opposed to the
I think there's two aspects. One is, as Jay says, that we don't really have a plan yet, so it's too early to sort of to commit funds on a capital basis for what we want to do, and there are a lot of questions to be answered. And I hope we address that question this year. I think it's an interesting one. But in terms of, best case of COVID, people can get together come fiscal year 21, 22, you're talking summer and fall and so forth, we'd still have, time to have a place to put these employees together. Renting space would make sense. But I'm guessing we probably have enough contingency money to make something happen in the short term. But my original question was, in terms of the drawings being done to spruce up El Monte Station to make it more amenable the way the firefighters need it now, moving the bathrooms around, moving the dorms around and so forth, are the funds for that in here?
That would be part of, again, because I believe that the commission has shown their interest, at least at last meeting, of when we receive a proposal, we will take on the cost of, and then therefore the ownership of the capital improvements to the El Monte Fire Station. Therefore, it would be part of the capital assets.
But do we have to do anything in the budget to show that, so the county will allow
We would show on the balance sheet. So if we, I don't know if you want to go, if we can go to this, might be a good segue to go into the balance sheet. If Sarah, if you want to show the slide for that.
Sure.
Then,
I'm assuming there is, because I know those changes aren't going to be too huge, but I just was curious which line that stuff went.
So
or are we waiting for January for them to come back with something before we?
I think we're kind of waiting right now because we're unknown. But what I've done, I can just show you real quick that there is something I need to disclose about fiscal year 21 first. So if you look at the capital asset net of accumulated depreciation line, so those are all of our capital assets. You'll look at the budget fiscal year 21. We had 1.996 million, and then all of a sudden, we projected fiscal year 21 3.655. Well, this is mainly due to Fryer and Loretta did a study of our hydrants, laterals, all the components, and it seems that we had under declared the value of those assets. So we're now we're going to do, I think once I have to confer with the auditors, but it would be probably a prior year adjustment to get our assets, the worth of our assets, the current value of our assets in line. Now then when we go into the fiscal year 22 budget, you see I've increased it again.
Right.
That's taking into account, and I just put 1 million less accumulated depreciation. figuring, okay, are we going to spend $1 million? Will this be the El Monte Fire Station improvements? Yeah, and so that's one of our discussion questions. You can see there is it, did I do that capital asset guesstimation right? Should it be higher? Should it be lower? Yeah, what assets do we think we are going to purchase in fiscal year 22? Does 1 million seem like a good guesstimate, or does that seem way too low? And without seeing the proposal, I don't know yet what.
Right.
Yeah.
We expect to get that in time to adjust this before it has to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we were supposed to have it in November, and I think something came up. So, it's been a crazy year. So, so hopefully in January, and then by the time I present draft 3 at the meeting,
great,
have a more accurate number there. But I'm only taking into account, the fire station improvements. Now, are there other assets that we want to look into? We had put, you can see commitments. I didn't change the commitments from fiscal year 21 to 22.
Right.
But perhaps in 22, we want to look into that wild protection technology, in which case I can take commitments out of, that we had 1 million committed. Okay, I can lower that now because we're going to be planning on spending it. So it's sort of, we have to decide how we want to spend, if you will.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm confident that our ongoing increased communication with Fire Chief Bowden on really what to implement here in this area as part of the region is going to address those things for us over the coming year. So I don't have a problem personally with leaving them as they are this year. We recognize they are fairly broad and are a signal of the directions we want to be spending some money in. So we'll hopefully detail that over the coming year. Well, those are really the comments I had, and you've addressed my questions. I'm happy, unless Janice, you have any other questions, I would proceed to item C, which is going to be next, really discussion of the next steps to detail for both us and members of the public, sort of what the next steps in this process are.
Sure.
No, I'm fine.
Okay. In that case, we will move to item C. I will first open up the C. Does any member of the public have any questions about the next steps, or would they like? Let's go ahead and have Corey present on the next steps, and then we'll open up for a question about those steps.
Sure. Yeah. And Sarah, if you can go to the very last slide. Great, thank you. Okay, so obviously the first next step is that I will create a budget draft 3. So I'm didn't really hear any changes. I think we're kind of happy with the numbers as we have them here for expenditures. Yeah, and I will look at that capital assets after we get proposal back. That number might change on the balance sheet. We have not received the revenue projections for property taxes yet from the county. Those are expected any day now, really. So by draft 3, our revenues would change as well. I used a guesstimate based on their April 2020. They revised the current year, mid-year. So I've just kind of used that as a template. So I'm hoping that I'm very close and that those numbers won't go down too much. But again, that'll be part of draft 3. So that what happens is when draft 3 is presented at the January meeting and the whole commission has a chance to weigh in, there could be changes made at that point to draft 3. Anything that they decide then becomes what you would say is draft 4, but really it becomes then the preliminary draft budget, kind of the final, or I'm sorry, so a preliminary draft budget, which I have to then provide to the county's Office of Budget and Analysis before February 12th, 2021. That's their deadline for submittal. Then at the February 16th commission meeting, which is after the February 12th due date, any changes that have been made after January 19th. So if there are changes to the revenue projections, which, you know, OBA says can happen, then a quote unquote final draft budget will be presented to the commission at the February 16th regular meeting. And then any changes that are made on that, hopefully none, I can then send again to OBA. Their deadline for the county executive to review is then the following week after that, February 22nd to the 25th. So county executive reviews those. Then we, on our March meeting, approve the final budget, which then is pretty much, I think the final budget is if the county executive has any changes that he would make, then our final budget becomes sort of more, it's more of what the county has decided our final budget will be. That's approved by the commission. And then the recommended budget is finalized by the county April 23rd of 2021. Budget workshops take place in May. And then the Board of Supervisors have their budget hearings June 14th, June 15th, and June 17th. So
what would occur in the budget workshop that would affect us, if anything?
this this would be, so if you recall, what was it, 2 years ago when
they shuffle money around sometime and we have to watch out for it?
Our projects and programs disappeared. So that's at that point, the budget
dollars that was not there.
Okay.
The budget workshop is the point. So it's sort of in between. If the county executive, I guess, has a change after we've approved our final budget, it goes in front of the board at the budget workshops. And that's more of kind of a work through of where we can then plead our case if something like that happens again and say, hey, we know we need our projects and programs. And then it gets reinstated before the budget hearings. So.
Yeah, Corey and I are all over those budget workshops. We watch those every day.
They sound so constructive, but they more dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, and so I think that sort of
it covers all the next steps.
Next steps.
And in fact, that includes the budget timeline as well, doesn't it?
Correct. Yeah, 3B or 3D as in dog provides a more. This is the actual the county Office of Budget Analysis. This is their full budget timeline for both the current year, if we need to make mid-year revisions, which we've been lucky we were not really affected by COVID. So I don't think we really have mid-year revisions that we need to submit to them. But then that's the fiscal year 22 budget timeline. So that's just kind of a snapshot for you to look at and keep track of when all the dates happen.
I appreciate the review on this. Janice, do you have any questions about the process and dates following up on this?
No, I think I'm fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to offer a chance for the public to have any questions about the upcoming, the steps and timeline. Alan, do you have any questions on that?
Thank you very much. I just would like to reiterate my comments about substantiation for the numbers. I listened to the discussion, but I really didn't hear any substantiations for how the numbers were actually arrived at. As far as the mid-year adjustment is concerned, the projected budget change here is the original budget said the district would spend $485,000 more than its budget, and the new projection says it's going to end up with $3.7 million more. So I would say that's a rather substantial deviation from budget that maybe Connie would be interested in. I agree with the directions, so I think those are all very positive things. I would just like to see more substantiation for how the numbers were arrived to. Thanks so much.
Appreciate those comments. And I will mention one thing that certainly it is striking the difference in terms of what we hoped to have spent last year versus what we were able to spend, but then a lot of that was taken out of our hands. I mean, really, you have to consider that most of the year was spent in a unable to be constructive for a lot of reasons, COVID, audits, everything else. So I think all of us are disappointed we couldn't spend more money last year. Sorry to say that. I'm hoping that we will spend more of the money that we intend to spend this year. So thank you for your comments, Alan. If there's nothing else, I think we're ready to move to adjournment. Does anyone else have anything else? I see Jay looking like you've got something to say.
Yes, just one other thing I just wanted to mention, and Corey, you can chime in on this too. What Corey and I will do once the budget goes through its next revision is then start working on the budget narrative. And that's, I think, I don't know, Corey, but I enjoy doing that a lot with you because I learned so much each time about the budget. But the budget narrative is where it gets into the details of what these numbers mean. So Corey, just some comments on budget narrative.
Yeah. So the budget narrative again, and that's an internal document. So we don't have that strict OPA timeline to get the narrative done. Just as long as we have it done and for the public to review, I think usually we approve it at the March or April meeting. So that gives then the public plenty of time to look it over and get more details of where we get these numbers from. But the county does not see the budget narrative. I don't know that we've sent it to them in the past. If they've yeah. So it's just something more for the public and for the internal use of the commission.
It's a transparency document. It's published on our website along with the annual audit that occurs, the financial audits. And it's just, it's a part of the picture of the public transparency of funds.
Great. Well, I want to thank everybody. I expect that our next full commission meeting will be very much repeating a lot of what we're saying here tonight. And I hope this was helpful it's really helpful to me to get the whole picture of what's going on here. Because there's a lot of moving parts. And I think it does tell a very positive and constructive and evocative story of where we're trying to go with this organization and really making a lot of changes. And it's very active despite all the obstacles to such progress. Progress is really moving forward. So I want to thank everyone for all the work that's clearly gone into this work. So thank you, Corey and Jay and Sarah and Denise and Victoria for bringing us to this point. And thank you, Chris, for keeping us on the right path. And hopefully, I think that's all. If nothing else, I will call this adjourned. Is there something officially I have to say to stop the recording?
Meeting is adjourned at what time? And then, yeah, and then you ask Sarah to stop.
It is 8:20. I'm calling for adjournment at 8:27 p.m. and we can stop the recording and I appreciate everyone's attendance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.